What if the version of you waking up every morning isn't actually you? You believe you're making choices, but 95% of your day is run by the version of you that was built from fear, repetition, and survival. The version that overthinks, overreacts, and never feels quite enough, no matter how much it tries. And here's the paradox. The harder you work to change your life, the more you reinforce the self that's blocking it. But what if that old self isn't real? What if it's just a signal, calling you to collapse the identity that's keeping you stuck? Because there's a version of you already alive in the field, waiting to be felt into existence. And that shift, it begins the moment you stop being who you've been. Have you ever felt like you're living on repeat, but you can't quite name why? There's a quiet kind of exhaustion that comes not from effort, but from looping. Waking up in the same bed with the same thoughts, reacting to the same triggers, and somehow expecting life to feel new. You know there's more. You sense a future pulling you forward, but the weight of who you've been keeps echoing louder than the version you're trying to become. And it's not laziness, it's not lack of vision. It's the subconscious mind doing what it was trained to do: protect the old self. Every morning before you even open your eyes, a chemical cocktail of yesterday is already being brewed inside you. Same hormones, same emotions, same electrical patterns in the brain. By the time you've brushed your teeth, 90% of your day is already shaped, not by intention but by memory. And the question that begins to rise is, what part of me is still choosing this identity? There's a false self living in the body, a programmed version, built through years of survival, adaptation, and unprocessed emotion. It learned to protect, it learned to please, it learned to pretend, but it never learned how to manifest. Because manifestation doesn't respond to effort, it responds to frequency. And frequency is a product of identity. You can visualize for hours, you can repeat affirmations with discipline, but if your nervous system is still encoded with the emotions of fear, lack, guilt, then what you're asking for is being blocked by who you're being. This is the paradox of the quantum shift. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are, vibrationally. And what you are, Iman, is what your body believes you are. The old self doesn't need to be fixed. It needs to be dissolved, because it was never your essence. It was a mask, inherited, rehearsed, recycled through generations and experiences. And it did its job. It kept you safe when you were too young to choose. It built walls when you couldn't defend yourself with truth. It adapted to survive, but now it's outdated. It's a version of you that's running yesterday's software on today's reality, and wondering why everything glitches. This old self speaks in patterns. It reacts instead of responding. It fears the unknown more than it desires the new. It holds on to control, believing surrender is weakness. And above all, it's addicted to being right, even if that rightness means staying stuck. The subconscious is loyal. It will keep creating the same loops because what's familiar feels safe, even if it's painful. That's why change feels threatening, because your body equates discomfort with danger and sameness with survival. But what if discomfort was the doorway? What if the uneasiness you're feeling is your soul negotiating with the old self for permission to evolve? This is where most people stop, right at the edge. They feel the friction, the resistance, the pullback, and they interpret it as a sign to retreat, not realizing it's the very signal that a shift is trying to happen. You're not just stuck, you're standing at a vibrational threshold, and that tightness in the chest, that recurring emotion that keeps returning right when things begin to expand, it's not sabotage, it's the gravitational pull of an identity that's being challenged by your next version. Because here's the truth. The moment you choose to be someone new, everything that's not aligned with that frequency begins to surface, not to punish you, but to ask you, are you really ready to let go? Can you feel the emotion and not become it? Can you observe the old self rising and not choose it again? The identity you built wasn't chosen. It was conditioned. But the identity you're stepping into, that one must be created through consciousness, repetition, and presence. Your old self is persistent. It speaks first. It reacts faster. It feels more convincing. But it's not more real. It's just more rehearsed. And the body always believes what you rehearse most, which is why the key to collapsing the old identity isn't mental. It's vibrational. You have to feel into the new before you can live it. You have to anchor in the unknown before it feels familiar. And you have to let the version of you that built your past step aside to let the present choose again. That's the real quantum shift. A change in identity, felt so deeply, the future starts to respond to it. So before we move forward, pause with me, close your eyes, breathe, ask, Who have I been rehearsing today? Is it the version that doubts, fears, and contracts? Or is it the version that chooses, feels, and allows? Because until this moment becomes a new rehearsal, the past will continue to play its role. Nothing changes outside until something dissolves inside. If something in your body just recognized this truth, like this video, and subscribe to stay in this frequency, the shift has already begun. What if your entire life was running on a script you never wrote? Not because you're weak, not because you're not trying hard enough, but because 95% of what you think, feel, and do is simply repetition. Programs inherited, beliefs absorbed, emotions memorized. Your subconscious mind isn't trying to sabotage you. It's trying to be loyal to everything you once needed to survive. And so even as you visualize a new life, even as you crave freedom, peace, abundance, there's an internal prison built of invisible bars. Bars made of neural pathways. Bars made of familiar emotions. Bars made of stories your body still believes. Because your body has memory, it remembers the time you were shamed for expressing joy. It remembers the day your truth wasn't safe to speak. It remembers the moment when trusting felt like too much to risk. And the nervous system doesn't forget easily. It wires safety to sameness. Even when that sameness is self-sabotage, you say, I want to change. But the body says, familiar is safer than free. That's the real conflict. Not in your mind, but in your biology. Let's pause here, breathe, and imagine this. You're 5 years old, something happens. Maybe your voice is silenced. Maybe your emotions are too big for the room you're in. You don't have the language to understand it, so your body encodes it. You internalize a message, I have to shrink to be safe. And that one phrase becomes a subconscious command, running for decades. Now you're 35, trying to manifest abundance. But every time you're seen, something inside contracts. Every time you speak truth, your chest tightens. Because the program isn't just old, it's undiscovered. You can't heal what you've normalized. You can't rewrite what you haven't yet seen as a script. This is the invisible prison of identity. It doesn't feel like a prison, it feels like you, like personality, like just the way I am. But who decided that? Who decided you were too much? Who said you had to earn rest? Who made you believe that safety meant shrinking? And why did you keep believing it? These are the cracks where the light begins to enter. Because here's what no one told you growing up. You were never meant to repeat. You were meant to remember and re-choose. But the remembering starts here, with recognizing that your subconscious is not your enemy. It's just outdated software, and like any code, it can be rewritten. But first, it must be brought into awareness. So ask yourself, what do I still believe about myself that was never truly mine? Is it the belief that love must be earned, that success requires sacrifice, that joy is dangerous because it never lasts, that healing is a luxury for later? Trace it back. Whose voice is that? When did you first feel that way? What were you protecting yourself from? Every unconscious pattern is a response to an emotional wound that never had words. And your power lies not in blaming the past, but in choosing a new future now. Because your subconscious listens to repetition, and you have the power to begin a new one, not with force, but with presence. Start here. Each morning, observe. Don't just wake up. Notice what version of you wakes up. Notice what thoughts arise before your first step. Notice the tension in your body, the mood you didn't choose but inherited overnight. Because awareness is the first form of reprogramming. When you see the pattern, you're no longer inside it. You become the observer. And from that space, choice returns. You can't shift what you merge with, but you can dissolve what you witness with compassion. That's the beginning of inner reprogramming. Not to become someone better, but to return to the version of you that was never programmed to begin with. That version still exists. It's the part of you that dreams when the mind goes quiet. It's the essence that feels like home when everything external fades. It's the you that's aligned with truth, not trauma. And that version doesn't need to be built. It just needs to be remembered and chosen again. So now, pause, breathe again. Let one memory arise, not to relive it, but to release it, feel it, name it, and say, that was a version I needed, but I don't need it anymore. That's how you unlock the prison, not by fighting the bars, but by remembering you're the one holding the key. You're not broken, you're just rehearsing a version that's no longer true. What if everything that's holding you back is something you once believed was protecting you? There's a reason the old patterns feel so magnetic. It's not because they serve you, it's because they've kept you company in the dark. They became familiar, and the human body, especially the subconscious mind, craves what it can predict more than what it can expand into. This is the vibrational paradox of healing. You long for freedom, but your body is loyal to the cage, because the cage feels like home. Every pattern you can't seem to break once kept you safe. People-pleasing might have protected you from abandonment. Shutting down might have protected you from punishment. Overachieving might have made you feel visible in a world that didn't notice your heart. So when you begin the journey of inner reprogramming, you're not just changing habits, you're grieving identities. You're facing the versions of you that once saved your life and gently letting them know they're no longer needed. That's why it's hard. Not because you're weak, but because you're loyal to the parts of you that once helped you survive. And now, you're being asked to choose again, but this time, from a place of expansion, not fear. Let's bring it to the body, because the subconscious doesn't speak English. It speaks sensation, tight chest, shallow breath, racing thoughts, numbness, restlessness. The language of the old self is felt before it's thought. So the next time you feel yourself spiraling, pause. Don't ask, what's wrong with me? Ask instead, what am I remembering right now without even realizing it? Because the old identity doesn't just live in your story, it lives in your spine, in your breath, in the way you react before you respond, in the voice that says, this won't last, in the silence that says, don't ask for too much. But here's the truth. Your nervous system is not your destiny. It's a rhythm that can be retuned. Let's go deeper. Imagine this. You're in a room with no windows. You've been there so long that you've forgotten there's light. Every time you approach the wall, you turn back, not because it's locked, but because you've convinced yourself it leads nowhere. Then one day you press your hand against it, and it moves. That wall was your belief. That room was your subconscious. And the moment you questioned it, the light returned. This is the power of inner seeing. You don't escape the prison by force. You dissolve it by witnessing the illusion that built it. So start small, not with big changes, but with subtle awareness. Wake up and notice. What emotion greets you first? What thought rises before your eyes even open? What version of you is rehearsed in that moment? Because every morning is a portal. You either step into the memory of who you were, or into the frequency of who you're becoming. And here's where science meets soul. Neuroscience confirms, neurons that fire together wire together, which means the more you feel and act like the old self, the more that self becomes automatic. But the inverse is also true. The more you practice feeling like someone new, the more your body begins to believe it. And that's when magic happens. Not because the universe suddenly gives you something, but because it always was. And now you're finally resonating with it. Your future isn't waiting to arrive. It's waiting to be recognized. And that recognition begins when you stop believing that every thought you think is yours. Because not all of them are. Some were absorbed from caregivers who didn't know better. Some were implanted by teachers, systems, cultures that feared your light. Some were built by moments of pain that you didn't know how to name at the time. But now, you know. And knowing isn't just intellectual. It's cellular. The body listens when you choose differently. So say it with me. This thought is not mine. This emotion doesn't define me. This version of me was useful once, but I choose a new one now. Repeat it. Let it echo. Let it feel strange, because it should feel unfamiliar. That's how you know it's working. Healing isn't about being comfortable. It's about becoming real again. And realness begins where repetition ends. So take this moment and do something different. Stand up. Shake your body. Speak a truth aloud. Break the pattern. Even if all you do is breathe intentionally for the next minute. Because every act of consciousness is an act of rebellion against the identity that was imposed on you. The mind forgets, but the body remembers. And yet, the soul knows the way out. If you felt something shift, like this video, and subscribe to stay aligned with this remembering. The more you return to this space, the more the cage disappears. Before you even think a thought, your body has already decided who you'll be today. You open your eyes. The room is the same. The light enters gently through the window, but something beneath the surface is already running. A sensation in the chest, a heaviness behind the eyes, an invisible pull back into the rhythm of who you were yesterday. Your body is faster than your mind. Before you've had a conscious moment, the old self is already waking up inside you, not because it's true, but because it's familiar. And the body has memorized that version of you with incredible precision. Think about it. You felt rejection once, and now your heart tightens before you even hear no. You felt shame as a child, and now your stomach turns before you share your truth. You lived anxiety for years, and now your breath shortens before a single problem appears. The body became the archive of every unprocessed emotion, and it's replaying the same song day after day. That's why manifestation doesn't begin in the mind, it begins in the nervous system, because your body sets the frequency before your thoughts can catch up. And if your frequency is still tuned to contraction, fear, self-doubt, you could say all the right affirmations and still attract more of the same. You're not manifesting from what you want, you're manifesting from what you're rehearsing somatically. So let's ask, what version of you does your body practice every morning? The one that tenses up with uncertainty? The one that expects disappointment? The one that doubts every intuitive impulse before it can move? These micro-habits are not just physical, they're vibrational anchors. They hold your identity in place, like invisible threads tying you back to who you were. But here's the shift. Your body is not your enemy, it's your amplifier. And what it's amplifying is entirely up to you, because just as your body can rehearse the old self, it can also rehearse the new one. And it starts with attention. Begin like this. Each morning before you get up, pause, not for thought, for sensation. Ask, where do I feel tension right now? What does that part of me believe? What version of me lives in that tightness? Breathe into it, not to get rid of it, but to listen, to make space, to offer a new command. Say silently, you don't have to hold this anymore. You don't have to brace for impact. We're not in that place anymore. This is the language of reprogramming, not with force, but with intimacy, with truth spoken to the body, as if it were a child that once had to carry too much, because it did, and you did. And now, it's time to let the body rest in a new identity. When you breathe with new intention, your frequency begins to shift, and with that shift, your reality begins to reshape, not because you tried harder, but because you felt safer to be someone new. Let's bring this home with practice. Tomorrow morning, before grabbing your phone, before rehearsing the to-do list, do this. Place your hand on your heart, close your eyes, ask, who am I choosing to be today? Breathe that version into your body, as if every cell was listening. Move your body gently, in a way that interrupts the old rhythm. Even 60 seconds of this can redirect your entire day, not because life outside changed, but because the version of you showing up is aligned with what you truly desire. And that's the secret. You don't become the future by thinking differently. You become it by feeling differently. First thing, every day. Before reality shifts, your body must believe the new you is safe. What's one thing your body does every morning that still belongs to the old self? Comment below. That awareness is the first breath of change. What if the discomfort you keep trying to avoid is the doorway you've been praying for? Every time you move toward expansion, resistance rises, not because you're broken, not because it's not meant for you, but because something old is being challenged, and it's fighting to stay alive. This is the part most people misunderstand. You begin a new practice, a new intention, a new choice. At first, there's excitement, but then the wave comes. Tension, self-doubt, triggers, fatigue. Suddenly, everything feels heavier, and the mind says, see, it's not working. But the soul whispers, keep going. You're passing through the veil, because this is the moment where most quit, right before the quantum shift, right before the new frequency stabilizes. Discomfort isn't failure, it's feedback. It means you're reaching a vibrational edge. It means you're stepping beyond the identity your nervous system was wired to repeat, and the old self doesn't leave without echoing. That echo is the fear, the doubt, the contraction. It's the body asking, are you sure this is safe? But here's the secret. You don't have to fight that voice. You have to love it, without letting it decide for you. Because that discomfort, it's not a stop sign. It's a birth canal. You're dissolving the familiar. And birth, even spiritual birth, comes with pressure, with intensity, with a deep, ancient trembling inside your being. Every part of you that was built in survival resists being replaced by trust. And that resistance isn't evil. It's sacred. It shows you where the work is. It points to the exact coordinates where the shift is trying to anchor. So let me ask you, what if the next time you felt discomfort, you saw it as a signal, not a threat? What if the ache was intelligence? What if the tightness was guidance? What if the contraction was simply the old self realizing it's losing control? That changes everything. Suddenly, the moment of heaviness isn't something to escape, it's something to honor. It means something new is being born, something unfamiliar, something truer than the roles you've been playing. And yes, and it's vulnerable, because it's easier to run, to numb, to scroll, to distract, to go back to normal. But normal was the cage, and discomfort is the crack in the wall. The only way through is through. Let me share a metaphor. Imagine you're walking through a fog. You don't know what's ahead. You can't see the ground clearly. But the more you move forward, the thinner the fog becomes. Then suddenly, right before you exit, it gets thicker, colder. Your body panics. You want to turn around. But just behind that final veil is clarity, warmth, home. The fog was your resistance. The cold was your subconscious fear. And the clarity? That's the frequency that was always waiting, just beyond the fear. So don't turn back when it hurts. Breathe deeper, walk slower, and stay present. Because discomfort is not a punishment, it's a realignment. And your only task is to stay. Stay with the breath, stay with the feeling, stay with the version of you that's being invited into the now. Because when you stay, something dissolves, and something new begins to breathe through you. Your pain is not the problem. It's the signal that something false is being released. If this reminded you of a moment you almost gave up, but didn't, share it in the comments. That story may be the portal someone else needs right now. What if the version of you you're trying to become already exists, not as a goal, not as an idea, but as a frequency, alive and resonant, waiting to be rehearsed? We were taught to believe that identity is built by doing, but in the quantum field, identity is accessed by feeling. And manifestation isn't about effort, it's about embodiment. You don't create the new you from the future. You collapse the timeline by becoming it now. So let's break a sacred illusion. You don't have to wait to be the version of you who is clear, abundant, magnetic, peaceful. You don't have to earn that version through pain. You don't have to fix everything first. Because identity is not a reward. It's a choice. A sacred, subtle, vibrational choice. Repeated until the body believes it. Your subconscious doesn't respond to intentions. It responds to rehearsals. And every day, every moment, you're rehearsing something. The question is, what version of you is getting practiced? Let's feel this. Right now, you could close your eyes and imagine a version of you that feels deeply free. Not theoretically, but physically. In your chest, in your jaw, in your breath. A version of you that walks slower, speaks with certainty, breathes as if time was on your side, moves like someone who already knows the universe is conspiring in your favor. That version is not imagination. It's access. You just stepped into it. And the more you return to that frequency, the more the field responds. Because the field doesn't respond to what you say, it responds to what you sustain. Let's take this deeper. Most people try to change through exclusion. They try to eliminate old habits, erase trauma, suppress emotions. But the subconscious doesn't delete, it replaces. And it only replaces when a new vibration becomes more familiar than the old one. This is the path of vibrational identity. Not fixing, not forcing, but feeling again and again until the new feels like home. So ask yourself gently, if I already was the version of me that has what I desire, how would I feel right now? How would I move through this room? How would I speak to myself after a mistake? How would I walk into a room full of strangers? How would I handle discomfort or silence or being misunderstood? Let those answers rise not from the mind, but from your nervous system, from your belly, from the quiet, steady pulse of the quantum self already living within you. Because here's what shifts everything. You don't have to find the new identity. You just have to stop rehearsing the old one long enough for the new to settle in. It's like learning a song. At first it feels foreign. You miss the notes, you fumble the rhythm, but with every repetition your hands remember, your voice aligns, the song becomes yours. The same happens with identity. You repeat the emotion, you breathe as if it were real, you speak from that place, you walk as that version, and then one day, without realizing, you are it, not because something outside changed, but because you became unavailable for anything less. That's the power of vibrational integrity. Your yes becomes magnetic. Your no becomes sacred. Your field begins to speak louder than your words. And this is when manifestation becomes inevitable. But let's address the doubt. You might say, but I don't feel ready. What if I'm just pretending? What if I'm bypassing the work? Here's the truth. There's a difference between pretending and rehearsing. Pretending denies what you feel. Rehearsing includes what you feel and still chooses something new. You don't have to deny your sadness. You feel it and still breathe as the version who knows this too shall pass. You don't have to suppress your fear. You acknowledge it and still walk as the version who trusts more than she doubts. That's what embodiment is. It's not perfection. It's permission. The quantum self doesn't require your flawlessness. It just requires your consistency of feeling, of choosing, of returning. Let's bring this into your life now. Visualize. You wake up tomorrow. Before opening your eyes, You remember, I'm not here to repeat, I'm here to rehearse. You breathe into your chest. You stretch as if joy is already living in your spine. You sit in silence and feel the version of you who knows, deeply, that something already shifted, and maybe nothing big happens that day. But you spoke slower. You didn't shrink when someone questioned your truth. You reached out for support instead of isolating. You allowed rest. You smiled to yourself in the mirror without needing a reason. These are not small things. These are quantum ruptures. Because every moment you act from the new identity, you collapse another layer of the old one. And one day someone will say, "You've changed," and you'll smile, not because you finally became someone else, but because you remembered who you were before the forgetting. The new you isn't far. It's already here. It's just been waiting for you to practice. If something clicked into place even slightly, let it anchor. Like this video and subscribe, not to follow more content, but to stay near the frequency your future self already lives in. What if choosing a new identity didn't require effort, only presence? Because every identity carries a rhythm, a breath pattern, a tone of voice, a posture in the body. And the fastest way to change who you're being is to change how you hold yourself now. Let's explore this not as an idea, but as a felt experience. Close your eyes. Picture two versions of you. The old self, anxious, doubting, cautious. The quantum self, grounded, magnetic, clear. Now bring them into your body. The old self lives in the tension behind your eyes, the breath you hold in your belly, the forward tilt in your shoulders, always rushing ahead. The quantum self, she lives in the back of your heart. He stands with his spine soft but present. They breathe all the way down to the hips. They move slowly, Mado, because they know. This is the forgotten language of energetic posturing. You don't just shift your reality through thoughts. You shift it through how you occupy space. Try it. Right now, soften your jaw. Drop your shoulders. Open the front of your body like someone who's not expecting attack, but invitation. And breathe. Something already changed. Not outside, but inside. And that's where the quantum responds from, because your field always speaks before your words do. Let's go further. You were never meant to become someone new by thinking harder. That's the old paradigm. The one that says change requires grinding, fixing, pushing. But your evolution isn't mechanical, it's magnetic. The more you feel like the new you, the less resistance you carry to living it. And that shift doesn't need proof. It needs permission. Let this land. You don't have to wait for the bank account to feel abundant. You don't have to wait for the relationship to feel worthy. You don't have to wait for clarity to feel confident. Because waiting is a form of dissonance. It creates a gap, a delay, a vibrational someday that never quite arrives. But when you feel it now, even for 30 seconds, that gap begins to close. And you collapse time, not because the world sped up, but because you stopped pushing your truth into the future. You brought it home, into the body. That's manifestation. That's quantum reprogramming. That's the rehearsal of your real self. Let's anchor this with a story. There once was a woman who couldn't speak her truth. Every time she tried, her voice would shake, so she stayed silent, even when it hurt. One day she sat quietly and imagined her future self, the one who spoke with ease and clarity. She didn't ask how. She simply felt her, and something in her shifted. The next day, she said one sentence she had never dared to say, and her voice didn't tremble, not because the fear was gone, but because something greater than the fear had been rehearsed. She didn't become a new person. She returned to the one who had always lived inside her. That's the quantum self, not invented, not constructed, reclaimed. And every day you have the same access. Every small choice made from alignment is a quantum vote for the version of you that already knows. Let's talk about identity more subtly now. Because identity isn't just what you believe, it's how you respond when life touches your edges. So ask, when someone questions you, do you shrink or steady? When plans change, do you collapse or adapt? When discomfort rises, do you numb or breathe? These are not moral judgments. They are maps. They show you what self is being rehearsed, and which one is waiting for your yes. Your response patterns are not your fate. They are familiar, and familiarity can be changed. One breath at a time, one choice at a time, one soft inner yes, repeated until the old rhythm fades. Let's bring this into daily practice. Imagine a week where you begin each day not asking, what do I have to do, but asking, who do I choose to be? That one question changes everything, because action without identity is effortful, but action from identity is flow. You don't need motivation when you're being who you truly are. You just move, because movement is natural in that state. Let's say you want to manifest aligned relationships. Don't start by seeking people. Start by becoming the one who no longer needs to be rescued to feel chosen. That vibration shifts the field, and people feel it before they understand it. You want to manifest abundance? Don't start with external hustle. Start by moving like someone who knows value doesn't need to be proved. That frequency opens channels no logic can explain. You change the field by becoming the signal, not by chasing outcomes. And yes, some days will feel false. You'll step into the new self and the old voice will whisper, "Who do you think you are?" When that happens, smile, because that voice is proof you're leaving a pattern behind. It's the nervous system checking if you're serious. It's the subconscious running its final tests. And all you have to do is not abandon yourself, not silence the voice, but outlove it, not fight the doubt, but breathe through it, not prove anything, just stay. Stay with the frequency of who you're becoming, long enough for the field to catch up, long enough for the old self to release its grip, long enough to remember, you've always been this. You just needed a body brave enough to hold it. What if the first 5 minutes of your morning decide the rest of your life? Not because of what you do, but because of who you choose to be. Most people wake up into repetition, the same thoughts, the same inner monologue, the same emotions they didn't even choose. But you are not most people. You're here to remember. You're here to rehearse. You're here to become. So let this next morning be your portal. Imagine this. You wake up. The light is soft. Your body hasn't moved yet. And in that delicate in-between, before thought rushes in, you choose. You place your hand on your heart. You close your eyes, just for a moment, and you ask silently, who am I choosing to be today? Not, what do I have to do? Not, what did I forget? Not, who do I need to impress? But who am I becoming now? Feel the shift already? Because that question, when asked sincerely, becomes a key, a frequency tuner, a signal to the field that something new is now alive in you, and the field responds. But first, your body has to believe. So here's how to guide your nervous system every morning into coherence with the new identity. The morning rehearsal ritual, 5 to 8 minutes daily. 1. Stillness. First, before speaking, before reaching for your phone, just be. Let the body stay in that neutral, receptive state for a few breaths. You're not in the past yet. You're not in the future. You are available, and that's where creation begins. 2. Anchor the body. Place your hand on your chest or abdomen. Breathe in slowly for a count of 4. Hold for 4. Breathe out for 6. Do this 3 to 5 times. This pattern brings the heart and brain into coherence, aligning subconscious access with conscious intent. 3. Ask the identity question, who am I being today? What does this version of me feel like? What does she believe? How does he move? What do they no longer tolerate? Let the answers arise through sensation, not thoughts, sensations. Warmth, stillness, courage, ease, certainty. 4. Practice micro-embodiment. Gently move your body as if this identity already lives through you. Stretch like someone at peace. Sit up like someone who knows. Smile like someone who's already chosen. Let your cells rehearse who you came to be. 5. Speak the identity, aloud or silently. 3 phrases. Let them be simple, but true. I am anchored in who I choose to be. I embody this frequency now. I don't need to earn this version. I remember her. Create your own over time. Let them evolve. 6. Breathe it in. Seal it. 1 deep inhale. 1 slow exhale. Visualize the version you rehearsed, moving through your day, not as performance, as presence. This is not a to-do list. It's a to-be list, a return to the inner command center, where the quantum field begins to shift in your favor, because you are no longer outsourcing your state to circumstance. You're generating it from within, on purpose. Let's make it even more alive. Here's a visualization. You're standing in front of 2 mirrors. One reflects the self you've always known, tired, proving, shrinking. The other reflects the self you've sensed in dreams, luminous, sovereign, calm. And here's the secret. Only one mirror is active at a time. The one you feel into becomes the one you reflect from. Each morning, your body chooses which mirror to align with, before you even speak a word. So your job isn't to fix the old reflection. Your job is to tune into the new one, until it becomes default. Identity isn't earned, it's rehearsed, and the morning is the first stage. If this ritual spoke to a deeper memory inside you, comment with 1 word you're ready to embody tomorrow morning. Let this be your frequency anchor. What if the self you've been protecting doesn't actually exist. It has a name, a voice, a rhythm, a story, but it's not you. It's the self you built when you needed to survive. The one who flinched before asking for help. The one who said yes while screaming no inside. The one who shrank when truth knocked at the door. You didn't become that self by choice. You became it by necessity. It protected you until it began to imprison you. The conditioned self is a ghost, a shadow made of memory, fear, and habit. It's not bad. It's not evil. It's just expired. And now, you don't need it anymore. Let's name it. The old self is the part of you that believes, if I slow down, I'll fall behind. If I speak up, I'll be rejected. If I rest, I'm lazy. If I'm seen, I'll be hurt. If I want more, I'm ungrateful. Sound familiar? These aren't flaws. They're fragments. They were formed in moments where your nervous system chose protection over presence. But those moments are gone. And now, you are here. And here is different. Here you no longer need to be loyal to the version of you built in fear. Because fear may have built your foundation, but it doesn't get to design your future. So let's dissolve the ghost. Not with violence, with reverence. Let's thank the old self and release it. Close your eyes for a moment. Visualize the conditioned self standing in front of you. Notice their face, their posture, their breath. Feel the weight they carry, the pressure in their shoulders, the tiredness in their eyes. And now, with tenderness, step back. Just one step. That's all it takes to break the trance. Say silently, I see you. I honor why you were created, but I don't need you anymore. Let it echo. Once, twice, 3 times. Let your body feel the space opening. You didn't abandon them, you just stopped identifying with them. And in that space, something new begins to breathe. Now we go deeper. You were never meant to fight the old identity. You were meant to retire it. Not with shame, not with blame, with ceremony. This is your vibrational rite of passage. It doesn't require effort. It requires truth. It requires choosing presence over pattern, because the conditioned self is not resilient. It's repetitive. It can only survive if you keep rehearsing it. And the moment you stop feeding it, it dissolves. That's the collapse. Not a breakdown, a breakthrough. Not chaos, clarity. Let's bring this into your breath. Inhale, I no longer need who I was. Exhale, I make space for who I already am. Repeat 3 times. Let the cells hear it. Let the frequency find you. Because the truth is, you don't need to fix the old self. You need to stop voting for it with your energy. And your energy is sovereign. Let's close with one final vision. You're standing at the edge of a river. On one side, the self you've always been. On the other, the self who's been waiting. The river is not wide, but it feels deep. You hesitate, not because you can't cross, but because part of you wonders, who will I be if I let go of who I've been? That question is your threshold. Step into the water. Let it wash the tension. Let it soften the fear. Let it dissolve the name you gave yourself just to survive. And walk forward, soaked in truth. Because the other side is not new. It's remembered. You are not the old story. You are the one who outgrew it. If this portal stirred something ancient in you, stay with it. Subscribe and revisit this space each time the old self whispers. Eventually, it will go silent. What if the universe doesn't respond to what you want, but to what you are? Not what you say, not what you visualize once in a while, but what you consistently broadcast through your emotions, beliefs, posture, breath. We think manifestation is about creating something new, but real manifestation is about removing what blocks the field from responding to who you already are. You are not attracting what you desire. You're attracting what your nervous system believes is safe to receive, and safety is frequency. Let's get honest. Have you ever asked for abundance while feeling fear? Have you affirmed love while bracing for rejection? Have you visualized success while doubting your worth? If so, you're not alone. This is where most people get stuck. They speak the language of the future, but they vibrate the memory of the past. And the quantum field? It doesn't read words. It reads coherence. It listens to the alignment between your body, your beliefs, and your breath. Where there is coherence, there is response. Where there is incoherence, there is delay. Here's the truth. Reality is not personal. It's responsive. It's not judging you. It's matching you. Like a mirror, but deeper. Like a tuning fork, but vibrational. And this is liberating, because it means you don't have to fight for your manifestations. You don't have to convince the universe to bless you. You simply have to become undeniably clear in what you're willing to embody. When you stop negotiating with the old frequency, the field stops sending you reflections of it. That's the power of alignment. Let's visualize. You walk into a room. You say nothing, but people feel something. They feel presence, or insecurity, confidence, or confusion. They don't hear your words. They read your frequency. The field is the same. It's scanning not for what you say you want, but for what you consistently carry. So if you carry shame, you'll meet reflection that validates it. If you carry peace, you'll magnetize experiences that confirm it. If you carry self-worth, you'll start to feel chosen by life. This is not magic, it's matching. Let's go deeper. The most important question isn't what do I want, it's what am I available for? Because availability isn't about desire, it's about resonance. Are you available for being seen? Are you available for ease? Are you available for intimacy that doesn't require performance? If not, your field won't receive it. Not because it's not possible, but because you haven't yet vibrated yes. And this is where freedom begins. You don't need to chase anything. You need to become the place where it naturally arrives. You're not manifesting from thought, you're manifesting from tone. The tone of your breath, the tone of your nervous system, the tone of your inner posture when no one is watching. Because the universe and the quantum doesn't respond to what you say, it responds to what your body keeps repeating. Not repetition through mantras, but through memory. And memory lives in the flesh, in how you sit, in how you speak, in what you allow. Let's expand this truth. Each of us lives inside a self-image, but not the one you see in the mirror, the one your subconscious believes is you. It's made of felt truths, core permissions, vibrational boundaries, and that self-image determines what you're energetically available for. So what if your self-image says, I'm valuable, but only when I prove it. I'm lovable, but only when I minimize myself. I'm safe, only when I'm invisible. These aren't affirmations, they're frequencies, unspoken contracts you signed long ago, and the field has been responding to them, faithfully, because the field doesn't filter by hope, it filters by coherence. When your field says yes, the world cannot say no. When your field is silent, the world echoes that silence. So here's your freedom. You don't need to chase a new life. You need to tune into a new frequency, and the most powerful way to do that is through presence, micro-presence, subtle shifts in how you carry yourself, the tone behind your good morning, the intention in your breath as you walk into a room, because energy speaks first. It speaks before your words, before your clothes, before your plans. Let's anchor this through a metaphor. Imagine your entire life is a garden, but this garden doesn't respond to how hard you try. It responds to what kind of seed you are. If you emit scarcity, the garden grows weeds. If you emit worth, the garden gives fruit. If you emit pressure, the soil locks up. If you emit ease, the harvest arrives. You don't need to fight the garden. You need to become the seed that the soil already understands. That's frequency. That's resonance. That's real manifestation. Let's bring this into daily life. Here are 3 vibrational rituals to help reattune your field throughout the day, without force. 1. Frequency. Interrupt 3x daily. Set 3 soft alarms, morning, midday, and evening. When they go off, pause whatever you're doing. Inhale slowly. Ask internally, what am I vibrating right now? Shift, adjust, realign. This keeps you from unconsciously rehearsing the old self. 2. Mirror coherence. Morning or night, stand in front of the mirror. Look into your own eyes, not with critique, but with remembrance. Speak softly. I trust the field because I trust myself. I no longer perform alignment. I embody it. This frequency is my new home. This reprograms the inner gaze and dissolves subtle rejection of self. 3. Realignment response. When triggered, when you get thrown off on a trigger, a comment, a setback, touch your chest. Pause. Say inwardly, this is not who I am, it's who I rehearsed. I return now. Simple, instant, sovereign. These practices don't create the new you. They clear the static so that the new self can stabilize. The field isn't testing you. It's waiting for your yes to stop wavering. So say yes, with how you move, with how you feel, with how you carry stillness inside chaos. That's embodiment. That's influence. That's frequency in action. Reality is a loyal mirror. When your frequency stops hesitating, so does your life. If this reminded you of who you've always been, write I am the field in the comments. Let your vibration leave a trace. Subscribe if this frequency is where you belong. What if the most powerful version of you doesn't need to be loud to be heard? She walks into a room and the air softens. He speaks little and the room listens. They don't need to prove, because their energy already speaks the truth. This is not about confidence, it's about coherence, because when you are fully aligned, the field aligns with you. You don't push, you don't beg, you become. There's a kind of manifestation that doesn't make noise, it doesn't post, it doesn't explain, it doesn't convince. It simply arrives, not because of what you did, but because of what you stopped doing. You stopped negotiating with doubt, you stopped pleading with the future, you stopped outsourcing your safety to the external, and in that quiet, your frequency became undeniable. You didn't manifest the dream, you remembered it, and the dream remembered you. So let this land. The final stage of embodiment isn't effort, it's ease. Not the kind of ease that avoids work, but the kind that flows from being unshakably home in yourself. You walk differently, you breathe slower, you listen more, you hold space without trying, because you're not needing the world to confirm you anymore. You've become the confirmation. Take this in. You don't need to prove your readiness. You don't need to chase clarity. You don't need to perform alignment. You need only to remember, you are not the thoughts you once believed. You are not the emotions you once rehearsed. You are not the version of you who had to fight for everything. You are the stillness underneath it all, the presence beneath the pattern, the witness that chooses again and again and again. That is where power lives, in the space no one sees, in the moments between decisions, in the silence that speaks before words ever arrive. Here's how you know you're embodying this. You don't react, you respond. You don't strive, you listen. You don't ask how long, you ask what's real now. And the universe aligns, quietly, faithfully, instantly, because the field always responds to the one who stops asking and starts being. So let's return to your body now. Just for a moment, breathe, feel your hands, feel the back of your neck, the space between your eyebrows. This is where you live. This is where creation happens. This is where miracles begin, not through control, but through coherence, not through noise, but through frequency, not through wanting, but through being. The most magnetic version of you is the one that no longer argues with reality. It simply redefines it. If this truth reverberated through your body, stay close. Subscribe not just to this channel, but to your own alignment. This field will be here every time you forget, until you no longer can. And if something inside you whispers that your next shift is already waiting, follow that pull to the next portal. You'll know when it's time.